Hi, I'm Bill Lynn. I'm the Vice President of Heritage Arsenal, and today we have the distinct honor of having a special guest here at Heritage Arsenal. His name's Michael G. Stahl. He is a two-tour veteran of the Special Forces in Vietnam and highly decorated, 2 silver stars, 2 bronze stars, Purple Heart, and Air Medal. And we are fortunate enough to have much of his memorabilia on exhibit here. And so Mike Stahl joins us, and we've asked him to talk a little bit about his experience in Vietnam, which I think viewers would be particularly interested in. And what I'd like to ask Mike to do is to set the stage for a very famous or infamous, depending on what reference point you have, event in Vietnam called the Tet Offensive. And this would have been in the February of 1968.
Yes.
And Michael Stahl is in Vietnam at this time. And what I'd like him to do is just talk about, set the table, basically, because we actually have a piece of memorabilia behind us that's related to, actually 2 pieces of memorabilia that are related to his experience during the Tet Offensive specifically. So take it from here, Mike.
Okay, first thing we have to understand that early in '68, in our area anyway, the VC were not well armed. They weren't a real threat to us, and most of our operations were non-contact operations. It was just very unusual. And then we had the Tet Offensive. And what a lot of people don't understand is that just doesn't happen like a fire starting. There's got to be lots of preparations for it. So I turned out being on a couple of operations that ran into NVA battalions that were coming in and preparing for Tet.
So these were indicators that
These
something
were indicators
was afoot.
because when you're used to having a 3-woman squad with 1 rifle as your adversary, and you go out in operations, operations constantly out, they never make contact, there's never any intel, and all of a sudden you run into something like this, that's a big indicator that something coming down.
Right.
And the VC were very dedicated, hard fighters in the early part of the war, but they had nothing to match U.S. forces.
Right.
So it wasn't really until the NVA got very involved that the war turned bad for the Americans.
Right. Now, you're operating in a more, there's no traditional capacity that a Green Beret is operating in Vietnam.
Exactly.
But for argument's sake, his second tour is with a highly classified program that we'll go into later, MAC V-SOG. But this first tour, you're with more of a traditional Special Forces tour situation. So can you describe kind of your role there, the units you're serving in, and the location you're in?
Well, I joined an A-team. I guess the ODAs they call them today, but the old A-team that's well known from the songs and that sort of thing in the movie, which is normally a 12-man team with distinctive jobs and lots of redundancy. And these teams can work as a 12-man team or even break down to 2 guys at a time and what's referred to as force multiplication. You've got 12 Americans there traditionally who are maybe at risk as Americans, but you have a battalion of Indige, of Vietnamese, Mountain Yard, and Ung forces. So you can go out on operations and not be putting that many Americans at risk.
Sure.
So this was used throughout Vietnam.
Right.
But in the Special Forces tradition, that team would be augmented. Whatever they needed, you'd have guys out there that would have no practical purpose on another team, but they did a job on that team. I was assigned to the team at first as the junior intel sergeant. I was in E5, had just come off a smoke bomb hill and earned my beret. And we were supposed to assist the intel sergeant in his job.
Gotcha.
But when I got to the team, the intel sergeant had already de-roased, had left country. So it was like, here's your desk, here's your safe, there's your map, go to work.
Right.
But everybody on the team, whether you're a medic, a weapons man, a demo man, we all took turns running the operations, the security patrols.
So prior to Tet, when did you arrive in country? So how long have you been in country before Tet actually happened?
Well, I got there in August.
Okay.
The early 8th of August was when I got there. And it wasn't into, I think, it was in December then, The 101st was working some ops in the area. We worked joint ops with them. We had a typhoon, which was very interesting. But that's, I think, if I remember the timeline, that's where when my patrol ran into the 1st Battalion, an actual battalion of NVA.
Wow.
Which was a surprise for all of us, but particularly our INDIG, our CIDG forces, because we went into an area we'd never been before, and it was a total surprise to them. Whereas the VC would share information, the NVA didn't, so it was a big surprise.
Sure. And you say CIDG, these are partner forces, Civilian Irregular Defense Group, that a lot of them had joined CIDG to avoid service with the South Vietnamese Army.
Right.
And you had pointed out to me earlier, we're actually paid better and better equipped.
Yes.
However, classic case of infiltration by the enemy into that force. And talk a little bit about, as you take them out on patrols, their habits in the woodline were a little non-standard.
Well, I just come out of SF training, and you know, you're talking about stealth and sneaking around and noise discipline. You've got all this training. And I remember leaving that gate, went out with Staff Sergeant Dickey. He was our commo man. I don't know if I'd been in country, like 2 weeks already. They had to break me in, and they helped me get my gear together and stuff. And we left the gate at the A camp just before sunrise. And I'm walking at port arms, and I'm doing everything I'd learned in training. And all the Vietnamese kids, they got their weapons, mostly carrying carbines, M1 or M2 carbines. They got them over their shoulder, and their canteens are banging. And I was kind of freaking out because I'm saying, we're going to be walking into an ambush. And then when I talked to Dickie later about what's going on, he told me, well, it was like there was an understanding that we had VC in the area, but they really didn't want to fight, and our guys didn't really want to fight. So there wouldn't be any chance encounters if they heard us coming. And of course, there was other intel shared that when we were on a patrol, they might know ahead of time where we were going to go, because we always walk trails, as opposed to all the rules, never walk the trails. And so it would have been so easy for them to ambush us, which as Americans you're always worried about, but those guys had the skinny.
Right.
So it was a real surprise the 2 times we walked into. I had the opportunity to take a company of irregulars and walk into a battalion.
Wow.
So you're talking about, 100 guys, 400 to 500 enemy.
Right. No, that's, they've got a 5-time number advantage over you.